I'm Erica Lukes, host of UFO Classified. For me, life isn't simply black and white. Life is full of many unknowns. It is my goal to travel the world and to work with the world's leading experts in the hopes of making groundbreaking discoveries. Join me on UFO Classified Friday nights at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on KCOR.
And then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Good afternoon, good evening. I'm Erica Lukes, and I am so happy to be here today. My guest this evening is going to be a breath of fresh air for all of us. We've talked a lot about Skinwalker Ranch as of late. You know my thoughts and feelings about that as we make more and more discoveries. But I always tell people that there is something genuine, something that we need to be looking at, and it's important for us to turn away from the United States and to look to Norway, because in Norway, in a beautiful little valley, there is good, credible research that has been going on for decades. A few years ago, back in 2017, I had the pleasure of traveling over to Norway for 2 weeks, and I got to see all of this research and this beautiful place, meet the people. I got to really learn what it was like to conduct a scientific research project, and it was one of the most empowering and wonderful moments of my life. I will never forget that. I am joined tonight by a very special person. Erling Strand is an assistant professor at the School of Computer Sciences at Østfold University College. He is one of the founders and the project manager of Project Hessdalen, and the main task is to find out more about mysterious lights in this valley in Norway. If you don't know about this story, it is an incredible story. Back in the early 80s, the people in this valley were besieged with different types of lights that were hovering above their homes. They obviously wanted to know what it was. They turned to the media for answers, and a lot has unfolded since then. But luckily, there were a group of people that had enough integrity, that were curious about it, that relentlessly pursued finding more information out about getting instrumentation there and doing good research. And it has been a really wonderful thing to see. So, Erling, I am just grateful to have you here. I think you, above anybody in the world, is just somebody that we should look up to, because you're so humble, but you have done, all of you and your team have done work that has not been done before. And I think that you have broken so much ground. It is just that we can all learn a great deal from you. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Erica. And I'm very pleased to be able to be your guest.
Well, thank you. It's so, sometimes over here in America, we get so caught up with some of the disinformation and some of the, it's just a whole different ball of wax over here. And so I really want my listeners to understand what it's like and the commitment it takes, the equipment, the combined efforts between, all of the people that you've worked with over the years and what you've discovered. And so if you don't mind, could you give our audience the history of the sightings in the valley and when you became involved in the project?
Well, it started in the late 70s when I was a student at at the university in Trondheim. And on my way back home, I was seeing a flying disc, in fact, and in the beautiful day. And that got my interest. So I got my interest in the UFO topic. Well, that back in 1978, I finished my study in 1980, and a little bit more 1 year after that, 1981, the small valley Hessdalen which is not so far from Trondheim city, about 120 kilometers. A small valley, only 15 kilometers long, 200 people living there. They started to see some strange thing in their sky, sometimes very close to their houses, and it happened a lot, sometimes several times a day. And at the most we have mapped it to be about, during a week it could be 10 good observations. And of course the inhabitants was very, well, a little bit frightened in the beginning, because sometimes these lights, mostly seen as lights, came close to their houses. It could be moved just outside their windows in the night time, and it was strong, it was big. So they was curious, what could that be? And well, they started to talk about it, and the press got aware of it and wrote about it, and more people came into the valley, and from there it started. We could say also that in the beginning, well, actually a really long time, when the newspapers and the press talked about it and wrote about it, the observer was ridiculed very often. Very few people took them seriously. They thought they was joking and everything. But if you can imagine, you're living in that village or this valley out in the countryside, and this huge bright light moving outside your windows. Of course you're curious to know what it is. And when you talk about it, you're just making fun of, ridiculed. So they were very upset, and I can understand that. Many people started to come there.
And I just have to say that is one of the things that when I hear you talk, I mean, you are genuinely concerned about the well-being of the people in this area. They are good, hardworking, wonderful people. And so I can only imagine how difficult that was for them to have the press and all of these people come and leave garbage and, you know, do all of these things, and then to be ridiculed like that. I mean, that's heartbreaking. But like I was mentioning, it's so wonderful that you and your team have supported them over the years. That must give them a lot of confidence.
Yeah, when we showed up there, well, I was up there very early to see it for myself. Many people went up there to try to see it for themselves, and I was lucky enough to see it the first night I was up there, and it made a big impression on me. And then I knew it was real. It was not any nonsense or anything. So I knew it was real because I had seen it myself. Then it took nearly 1 year before we started to decide to do something, because everyone talked about, why doesn't that university do something? Why doesn't that research establishment do anything? And they got the impression that even if it showed up nearly every day, there was no effort from the science departments to try to find out what it was. So, well, at that time I was working as a researcher in Oslo, and I was gathering some friends, and we discussed what to do. We also talked about, why doesn't that university do something like that, and we decided, well, why not try ourselves? So we made a group, and we started a project Hessdalen. That was back in June 1983, a long time ago. But the phenomena has gone on for 1.5 years before we started. Well, everyone else thought that someone should start. Well, we started, me and my team, and we gathered a lot of people, gathered a lot of instruments, and had a fieldwork up there with instruments. We wanted to gather scientific data and have the phenomena documented. And at the beginning, when the inhabitants up there understood that we took them seriously and we wanted to help them find out what it could be, they was very glad. They have been always helpful for us. They are wonderful people, as you say, and they want that, find a solution to that phenomenon, what it can be. Well, back in January and February 1984, we had our first fieldwork. A lot of people, I think it was close to 40 people totally, not all the people all the time, but totally 40 people was involved, and we had a lot of instruments. We planned this fieldwork precisely. We talked with the science department, we talked with the military, we talked with some universities, and managed to find someone who was willing to help us. So in fact, there was a good scientific team also from the professional part. And they gathered instruments which we borrowed. You know, we hadn't any money, we hadn't any funding, but we borrowed everything. And so we got a lot of instruments up there during this 1 month of observation. And we got also a lot of observation. At that time, there was the big UFO flap, as we called it, was still going on. It was huge, up to 10 observations a week. And it started in late 1981. And we had the first fieldwork in early 1984 with the huge flap still going on. And it was until late 1984 that the huge amount of observations decreased a lot. But anyway, we had the first fieldwork when the UFO flap was quite big. So we got a lot of data, a lot of observations and instrumentation readings, and also a lot of pictures and everything. So I wrote a report based on the findings, which can be found on the website Hessdalen.org, www.hessdalen.org. And it was a lot of interesting data. So the team, those scientists and those military personnel, those from the universities who helped us the first year, they continued. They said we should go on for 1 more year to see if we get as much data as we did the first year. So we started preparation for the second fieldwork, which took place winter 1985, early 1985, in January and February. We was actually even better equipment, instruments. We had better equipment. We was more prepared. We had training from the year before. A lot of people gathered It was exciting to be part of it. And but the second year, we got only one real good observation compared with more than 50 the year before. So we was disappointed, of course, and we had also been promised from the scientific community, the military and so on, the team, that if we manage to get as much data, scientific data, this time as we did last time, they would recommend that we should get all the funding we needed to run it real professional to go on for one more year. But sadly, we got only one good observation, so it ended. The first field, the second field work ended there. I could mention also that during the second field work in January and February 1985, we got a visit from Professor Erling Strand, and he came all the way from the States up to Hessdalen Valley just to see the project running. And I think he was pleased, and he thought it was important because, as he said, Hessdalen is a UFO laboratory. It's a place where things are happening and where it's possible to study. You know, this area, this valley is not that big. It's about 15 kilometers long and 5-6 kilometers wide. So it's a small area. It's possible to put up instruments there. And compared with all the observations as well, so the opportunities was perfect. And we used that opportunity, and we run these two fieldworks back in 84 and 85.
And after that, and I have to say, and sorry for interrupting you, but you can find video of a brief interview that J. Allen Hynek did when he was over in Norway with all of you, and that is on your website as well, which I will be posting links to that throughout the show tonight. So it's fun to watch him.
Yes, and we were of course very pleased that he could visit us. And he also said that he should help us with the project. When he should return back to the stage, he should make a scientific team, which could be to our disposal if we could discuss with them and so on, and they would help us. But as you all know, this was in 1985. And in the year after, the sad thing happened that Hynek left us. He died. So that was very pity, of course.
It's so wonderful that he had the opportunity to go over there and just to see the excitement on his face when you look at these videos, and for him to say this is a laboratory, a UFO laboratory, and it really truly is, and with all the work that you have done over the decades and things, it's really a one of a kind place. And before we get ready to go to break, I just want to ask you, if there are other places in the world where you have been to study this type of thing. Can you just give us some of those places, some other places where you can see similar types of things?
Yes, there are several other places around the world. I personally have been to northern Australia, where we did also see similar kind of lights. I've been to Mexico, and we did see something there as well. And I've been to the States, several places in the States to study it with instruments. So it's not only in Hessdalen, Norway, going on, but there are other places as well. So just mention that I'm very keen on to study this, get scientific data, when you have a place where things are happening, I think it's very important to get the scientific data so we can discuss what it can be. And when we start to get the data, we have got so much data, but I must say that much of these data is really strange. Some data point in one direction and some other data point in another direction. So that made us thinking, is there several solutions? Is there several different things going on? Or if it's only one with one solution, then finding this solution scientific with instruments, ordinary instruments, is very difficult.
I bet it is. And how readily do people share data if they have other, sites on the planet that they're investigating? Do you find that that's pretty easy to do or more difficult?
Well, when I've been to the other locations, I brought my own instruments with me. Not so much, of course. When I was in the States, they had instruments ready there. So, and of course, it's important to have the right instruments and enough instruments, so you are able to get the data you want, or anyway, get the data which can be connected to the phenomena. And that's also one of the challenges. What should we measure? Of course, we have the lights. That's one thing. So you can measure all different types on the light, the optical spectrum, etc.
Right, and I want to talk more about that, because that is the equipment that you're using. I mean, some of us have pieces of that equipment, and some of us, I'm sure, would be willing to go out and get equipment, probably the cheaper models. But that'll be important, and I think that'll empower some people to get out there and do field work. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we get back. I am Erica Lukes here on UFO Classified. You can go to ufoclassified.com to see my upcoming guests and read the latest on my research. I'm here with Erling Strand, who is my hero. He is somebody that is looking at this from a scientific perspective and has done great work with his team over in Norway. I appreciate him being here, and we will be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, my friends. I hope you are all safe and healthy, and I appreciate all of you being here. It is so much fun. As you know, I really get excited when I look in chat and I see all of you asking such great questions and really thinking about things, being grounded but open-minded enough to understand that there is something and that we have to really be smart when we're looking at information we're being given, especially over here in America. You've always heard me talk about my trip to Norway because it was, like I mentioned in the first part of the show, it was one of the most special times of my life to actually be standing on a mountain in Norway, to be working alongside or observing the students from science camp that were there, and some of the wonderful teachers that were there, and people from different parts of Europe that were there to lend assistance in this wonderful research project. It really was amazing, and I encourage you to find out more about it. They have 24-hour live streaming cameras there, so you can perhaps get a glimpse of the phenomenon. And it's really, really cool. They're very transparent with things, which I love and is important. I'm here with Erling Strand, who is an assistant professor at the School of Computer Sciences at Oxford University College, and he was one of the founders of Project Hessdalen. And it is, like I said, it's just amazing. This is a positive thing, and I want all of us to, when we get discouraged over here, to turn to Norway and look at the wonderful work they've done. So, Erling, thank you so much for coming back. You were talking about the start of the project and how, the first time that you went out, you were having 50 plus documented observations, and then the second time there was one, and so that was a little disappointing to you, and I think that took the wind out of your sails, but it didn't stop you from pursuing this. And so at what point did you begin to pursue this again?
Well, we actually, back in 1985, when we only got this one big observation during the big fieldwork, we thought it was gone. It was stopped. And actually, we didn't prepare any new fieldworks. Too much work for too little. So it wasn't until some years later, back in 1993, 8 years after our fieldworks, I was invited to Hessdalen by the people up there. They wanted to know what had happened with all the research we have done back in 84 and 85. So they wanted to know what has gone. Well, what had happened is that I had only been to some scientific conferences on different places on the world, not so many, but some, and got contact with scientific people discussing this. Also, some journalists has been interested, so it wasn't much action, only conferences and some journalists. So, but in 1993, I was invited up there. I had a presentation. I told them about the results, what has been done after that, the growing interest among the scientists, and more people was aware of it. And then during my presentation, or actually just after I was finished, I thought it was gone up there. There was nothing left. But the inhabitants come up to me and said, "Well, I must tell you something. It's still going on." "What? Is it still going on?" "Yes, it's still going on. But we don't tell it anymore. Because we was ridiculed. We don't tell anyone about it." So, okay, so it continues. And then my thought was, maybe I should start Project Hessdalen again, 8 years after we had finished it. So I did. Went back to my university college and discussed maybe I should want to start it again. The old team, which I had back 8 years before, was not interested. It was only me who was interested to go and do the work again, start it again. And I did. I got a couple of companion on my university college who worked together with me. Bjørn Gitle Hauge was one of them. And I had my students. I teach computer science. I asked them to make an automatic station who could be up there and do observations automatically and record data. So even when no people is up there, and my student was working, so it took 4 years from 1994 when they started. New teams of students continued, new teams every year, and in 1998 the station was finished enough to be brought up in Hessdalen and set in operation. So that was a historical moment when he brought this blue box container full with instruments, brought it up in the field, up in the mountainside in Hessdalen, and mounted it and started it. And it had cameras, and it had some few instruments, electromagnetic radiation and so on, magnetometer, which was connected to a computer and send the data it gathered every morning it gathered data the whole day and night, and in the morning it transferred all the data to the local server at my university. That started in August 1998, and it has gathered a lot of data. It hasn't been working all the time, technical problems and so on, but it has got a lot of data, and it has improved during the years. So from the one camera in 1998 and old instruments improved a little bit every year. And now also we got cooperation with scientists from Italy, University of Bologna, who had their students up there building instruments for measuring this. We have had students from the university in Würzburg in Germany to be up there and set their instruments up working. So there has been some activity up there. So the detection system is quite simple. It's a camera looking out in the valley all the time, and whenever there's something something suddenly show up in the camera view, it start recording, and it's recording a movie of it, short, some seconds. We have had, I would say, quite a lot of data, and the last period of the station, it has been working quite good, and from October 2017 to this day, it has been more than 314 recordings from this. We call it the blue box because it's a blue container, and in the beginning we called it the Hessdalen Automatic Measurement Station. It's a long word. The Italians started to give it the name the blue box, so now we call it the blue box. Installed 1998. So the system which are running now, it started October 2017, quite regularly, 314 recording. We had also some from 1998 to 1999 too, which had also more than 100 recordings. Some of them are quite interesting, and all of them are out on the website. so everyone can go and look at these recordings, small video clips, and together with a picture.
And so what other, and I have to ask you too, because you had, even in your first expedition there, the instrumentation that you brought was pretty impressive. I mean, you had your spectrum analyzer, radar, seismograph, a laser, and then 3 different gratings, Geiger counters, different things like that. What have you added to that now? Like in the Blue Box, I know there's so much going on, and it was fascinating for me to sit there and watch all of you get in there and attach new things to the top of the Blue Box and all sorts of things. But how is that from when you first started? What has really been groundbreaking as far as bringing new equipment up there?
Yes, well, the first Fieldworks back in 84 and 85, we were present there all the time. We had the instruments, we had the radar, we had the laser, we had the spectrum analyzer, and infrared viewer, and Geiger counter, and seismograph, and so on. We had it running all the time. It was very easy to have it running all the time when you were present, because if something stopped, you can start it again. And we got a lot of data on these different things, which I have written about in the first report, among the laser testing and reacting to laser and so on. And also seems to be some kind of interaction. But when we had this automatic station up there, March 1998, we had a black and white camera, computer, video recording tape system. Now we have a better camera system, where we have also better computer, better recording systems. We have also cameras from University in Würzburg, and specific cameras. And so if something is visible up there, we are quite good to observe it. We have had other instruments up there which is not in operation at the moment. We have had low frequency electromagnetic radiation detection, and that was we have actually used that during also science camp, which I will tell you more about later. But in the Blue Box we had low frequency electromagnetic detection system, which did detect something when this phenomena show up. We have had all different kind of technical things. Magnetometer we had running for a while, weather station. All this is important data. For instance, during the year we can say that the magnetic field is an interesting topic, because it seems that the probability to see the lights is higher when there is high magnetic activity. And also the weather. It seems that some of the type of lights, flashing light, is more likely to be seen when it's more foggy, it's high humidity and so on. Maybe I should also tell about the different types of phenomena. I mainly talked about the instruments.
Yes. There's so much to talk about. So.
And of course, I will tell more about the science camp also, which is also a great thing. But anyway, a little about what are people seeing there. We have categorized them in 3 different main topics. One is flashing, short flashes, normally white or blue, and it lasting from a fraction of a second up to a maximum a couple of seconds, mostly in a fraction of a second. And it can be hard to see because the duration, the flash is so short, so you have to be aware when it flashes, and then it can be gone. But we have learned that these flashes, when you start to see some of the flashes, it's a high probability that it continues, so that there will be another flash not long time afterwards. So we say that if people see a flash or believe they see a flash, because when the flash is so short, you are not sure, did you see something or was it just imagination? Well, anyway, I say if that's the case, take pictures with long exposure time. You know, it's dark up there, and when you use camera on tripod and with long exposure, if any flashes is showing up in the view when the camera is during taking the pictures, it's a high probability that you will get it. And you have got several pictures due to that fact, because otherwise you normally don't take pictures all the time and hopefully to see some light. Well, some you can do that as well, but when you know there is a higher probability that something will show up, you are more eager to take a picture. And we tell the students to take picture when that's the case. And due to that, we have got several of those. That's flashes. That's one type. Blue, short, blue-ray flashes on the fraction of a second, hard to see. The other main thing is the huge lights, big balls of light. The size can be all different sizes, from only some centimeters in diameter to several meters. People have said that they are as big as their house, and it can move around slowly. It can move very fast. On one time, we measured the speed of 30,000 kilometers an hour. That's fast. 30,000 kilometers an hour on one of these balls of light. But these balls of light with different shapes, different speed, they can stand still for minutes on hovering above the ground. They can move slowly, they can stop, they can move fast, they can continue for more than an hour. Even up to 2 hours it can continue. And they are much more easy to see. And it's very often down in the valley, so you can look down on it. You know, it's a river in the bottom and the mountains on each side of this river. And if you are standing in the hillside and you see this light down to the river, you are looking down to it. And that has been seen several times. During the first fieldworks in 1984 and 85, that was the main thing, main observation. At that time, we wasn't aware of the flashes. So that was the knowledge about the flashes, which is one type, was coming to us later when we started to see lights in the picture where we was taken when we didn't see any light when we took the picture. So it was a flashes. Well, anyway, these balls of light, which is one type, different shapes, all different types of shapes, different behavior, different moving, different speed, everything. So we have discussed maybe you should split these in different types of types though. But I prefer to keep all these balls of light in one type. You know, this ball of light can stand still for many minutes, or can move with 30,000 kilometers an hour, can move down the hillside, moving down to the river, and so on. The third type, which I define as one specific type, is when you have several lights together as if they are connected to something. And when this has been seen by the people up there, when it's not completely dark, the sunshine, it isn't sunshine, but it's light enough to see something, in nature and so on. They say that this thing that this light is connected to is a black object, and there can be several lights. It can be 2 lights or 3 lights, even some more also. But these lights they move together. So it's like it's light on something, connected, some black object. That has been seen so many times. So I also define that as the third type. The fourth type is the daylight observation. We have that up there too, but it's much more seldom. It's well, first of all, when this is a light, well, it has been seen what people they explain as object as well. This has also been captured on the camera and pictures, which you can find on my website hessdalen.org. But anyway, that type daylight observation isn't so much happening. It's very few, very few compared with the other lights. So when you had all the instruments, when you have running this, we have been focused on the lights, the type. Well, it's more easy to measure. You know, when you have a light, you can make optical spectrum and so on. It's more easy to know what you can measure. But we have also the other fourth type, though. So that's the 3 types.
And you do have, I mean, like you said, you have all of this on your website, all of the photos, movies, technical papers, theories, different things that have happened in the media, also everything on the website. And so it really is a great resource for people to go check it out. I go there at least twice a month to see what new things are happening. It's really a great website. I'm Erica Lukes. We're getting ready to take our bigger of the break, so grab something, get comfy, and stick around for the second half of UFO Classified. I'm here with Erling Strand. This is a treat for me. I hope for all of you as well. We will be right back.
Listen very carefully. This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico, and the rancher turned it over to the airport. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the second half of UFO Classified. You can visit my website at ufoclassified.com. There's also a link there to become a supporter of the show, which I appreciate. I want to thank all the people who donate to keeping the show on the air. It helps a great deal, and I love being here on KCOR, so there is no place I would rather be than here and working with Tina Marie. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate Tina. I love doing this and spending Friday nights with you, having great conversations in chat and exposing more and more people all over the world to some of the controversy, some questions that we should be asking with regard to what we're going to be led to believe by the powers that be over here in America, and then also look at some of the brilliant researchers and people who have contributed to historical archives over the decades. There's so many brave people and wonderful people that have dedicated money, time, sacrificed personal careers in order to get us good information, to do good research. And there are also people who've witnessed things who have been ridiculed, as Erling Strand mentioned at the beginning of the show. You know, when you come forward with a sighting like this, it is very easy for people to ridicule you, and that is unfortunate. There are a lot of genuine people who are just looking for answers. So I feel very empowered to have this show and to have somebody like Erling Strand on. And when we left off, we were talking about the phenomenon that was being witnessed over in Norway, and we mentioned the white. Erling was telling us about the white and blue flashing lights that were very quick, sometimes hard to see, and then also the balls of light that take on many different shapes and behave differently and can hover for minutes at a time and then move at amazing speeds, and then the lights together on a black object, which is interesting, and then the daytime sightings. And so it is really interesting to see some of the photographs, and I'm just on the website right now looking at the photos that you've captured over the years, and they are truly stunning.
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's a lot of good pictures. A lot of pictures has been taken, and you know the valley itself. This beautiful nature up there. So many people visit Hessdalen just to look at the nature and to take a lot of pictures. And some of those visitors has come to me when they're looking at their pictures and they see something strange in the picture. So they managed to capture the phenomena onto their camera without knowing it when they took the picture. And that's fun. That has happened several times as well. And also that's most of the daylight observation has been captured in that way. So is wonderful. And you're right, it is some of the most stunning landscape I have ever seen. It is truly a beautiful place and one of the most beautiful places I've seen. I remember, you know, when we would go on the hikes when we were there and we'd climb up to different observation points and just feeling the ground underneath me. It was so spongy and it was like walking on air. And then, you know, getting to the tops of these mountains where you had the observation points and the wind just being brutal in some cases. But it was just looking out over the lakes and seeing the greenery and everything. It was really, really amazing for me. And so let's talk about Science Camp, because this is something that we should be, in my opinion, we should be doing here in the United States. This is really empowering a younger generation to use science to look at the phenomena. So tell us how that started and a bit more about what you do in the schedule for Science Camp. Well, it started, the first Science Camp was in 2002. We take young students out in the field together with their teachers. They stay in the tents together with the instruments and looking for the light, the phenomena, during most of the nights. I have cameras ready, video ready, instruments, and so on. And with young students, we started 15 years old student together with the teachers. They was very eager to take part of it, because we told them about all the strange happenings up there, and it was very exciting to take care of it. They use a normal class of students split in different locations. We had 3 different locations on different mountains, and also we had a headquarter, totally 4 different locations. The headquarter run the whole business, write down reports and everything like that. And there was an action. And when something is seen, when something is got on camera, you know, you can imagine these young students are really excited. And they are up in the air in a way, and you can listen to their voices on some of the videos they have taken. You hear the excitement, and of course, how we managed to start it? Well, in early 2007, it's 2002 we started. There was a very lack of interest in the technical or scientific field, natural science, mathematics, and engineering. Among young students, the interest was very low, and that could be a problem for a technical society as we live in. If we don't have enough people who can handle this system. So the Norwegian state and also different organizations was a little bit concerned and put out how could we increase the interest for natural science and science as such. And then we came up, I and my companion, Bjørn Hauge, we said that, well, let them show that science is exciting. Science is not any where you sleep behind a screen or something. It's action out in the field. Mm-hmm. So we got funding to do that, test it, and it was lucky. And the student was so excited. So we continued every year, new classes up there. Even if they stay in a tent 1 week, rough environment, but that was very, very good. Later we tried older students, 17 years old. Well, of course, they're older, much easier to handle. They can handle more themselves, and they did also a great job. And now, since 2017, we have actually got it into our university college as a study subject. We call it Fieldwork. So those students who want to be out in the field doing this field work in Hessdalen, they have 2 campaigns, one in the autumn and one in early spring in the winter. 1 week in the spring and 2 weeks in autumn, and they do research. They do all the old part of field work, so they learn a lot, and they also have get data, and the system is organizing the same way. We have 3 field stations up in the mountains. We have a headquarter which run the business organization, tell it on the internet and so on, and they learn a lot. And if something is happening, the student need to take actions. When we have younger students in the beginning, 15 years old, together with the teachers, we couldn't expect. It can be rough weather. Up in the Norwegian mountains in September when it normally took place. It can be windy, can be storm. So we have to be grown up enough to handle that. So at that time we used some of our students, clever students, who help us run this fieldwork. Well, long story. The main thing, this is a success. Students are exciting. They learn science, mathematics, physics, scientific fields out in the field in the, let me say, the hard way, exciting way. And they're very keen on being part of it. We couldn't allow everyone who wanted, we had only one class from each school. We got questions from many classes around the whole Norway to be part of it, to take them out in the field. But we had to say no, we hadn't capacity. And now, when we have the study field in our university college, we cannot take everyone who wants to take part of it, because the number of students up there, it has to be a maximum level. So we say about 20 now. When we had these young students together with teachers and help from our students, we could have at the maximum 50. But anyway, it's so they want to take part of it, so we cannot bring everyone with us. So, and we have to pick up those who will manage to, which we believe manage be out in the field. I would say that due to the success and all the thing, I think science camp should be run nearly, not everywhere, but if there is a place, and there is places around the world, not only Hessdalen in Norway, you have several countries with some activity. If this was known, so for instance, if some people in a small valley, they maybe don't want to talk about it, but if that was known to school system, and they could bring young students out there to do real research together with the researchers as well. We have had cooperation with different scientists or researchers from different countries, and they are normally up there together with the young students, so they see this is real science. It's not any made-up science just for these students, because we have this science people doing their work up there at the same time, and that is very, very good also to see that the student is part of something real scientific thing. But anyway, to make it short, take student, if you are a teacher, if you are on a school or a college or a university, why don't you make a topic out of it and bring the students out in the field? They will learn a lot up there, and they take it exciting, and we may get the data.
Well, and I love, there's a documentary that was done, The Portal. It is about 20 years old, I think, from my recollection. But you can hear the students, you can see them when they see the phenomena. And like you said, they are just, screaming. I mean, they're just so excited. And I remember that during some of the observations that the students were having when I was there, I mean, they came back and they were elated. I mean, this was really an important thing for them and something they'll remember the rest of their lives. And so that is very empowering to teach people how to engage this. And I really love that. And I want to ask you, because we have so many interesting things going on over here in America. There is a kind of a need for whatever reason to paint whatever this is as a threat or something that can can gravely injure people. I mean, is that's nothing that you've ever seen over there?
No, not in Hessdalen. No one has been hurt of it, and so it's we can say it's not dangerous, even if we don't know what it is. We know that no one has been hurt, so it's probably not dangerous at all. So
right.
that's a topic. Yes, that's important.
I appreciate you saying that, and I think sometimes we just, there are lots of other reasons why people might say that it was a threat, but that unfortunately has kind of been a common theme, and I think it discourages people and frightens people unduly when there is something really amazing out there that we should be looking at. And when, I want to also ask you, because there are people over your career, as you've seen, that have been very skeptical towards the work you have done, all of you. And there's always somebody that wants to discredit something. But, you talk a little bit about some of the ideas that were thrown at you with regard to what this is and the process that you went through to rule out more mundane explanations.
Well, I was lucky enough in the beginning that I saw it myself, so I knew this was real. And also I discovered everyone who was talking about this is nonsense or this is just foolish thing. None of those has been out in the field and seen it themselves. So, because when you see it for yourself, you are out in this field, out in the mountains, and you see this, it makes something on you. So for me, I knew from deepest in my heart that this was real. And so that made it more easy for me when anyone tried to stop me anyway. I knew this was real. So if I should have listened to all those who is probably afraid or won't think this is a good idea or whatever, if I should have listened to that, wouldn't have done anything. And I think it's more important to listen to your heart.
And I remember having conversations with you and just being blown away at how dedicated and sincere and humble you are. And it was just, you moved through it. It was what it was. You didn't get emotional. Okay, you get people are coming at you from different directions, and as we just see in life anyway, but especially when there's something that is pushing the boundaries of people's comfort zone, this is you've moved through it and you've handled it, and it's really refreshing to see. With regard to some of the mundane, the earthquake lights. I mean, tell us a little bit about that, or ball lightning, and why it could or couldn't be that.
Well, ball lightning was something which also wasn't explained what it was. So I got the opportunity to present the Hessdalen phenomena, as we call it, on the ball lightning conference. I think it was in Budapest 1990 in the first time, and also in 1992. Well, anyway, and I wanted to have the ball lightning scientists to look at it and have their impression on if this has something to do with ball lightning. And well, there was a discussion back and forth, but there was some main differences between the ball lightning as they define it and this light. For instance, ball lightning seems to have some electrical characteristics if they come close to an electrical wire, for instance. Very often it is going to the wire and many times also follow the wire into the house and do a lot of damage. And also similar like that, clearly an electrical thing. But these Hessdalen phenomena don't show up anything like that. It can move close to electrical wires, but it doesn't go onto the wire. It just pass by. So it hasn't that the main thing as the ball lightning. And also the ball lightning is normally lasting only a fraction of a second. Very often can last longer, not only a fraction of a second, but some seconds. Sorry, I said wrong. But anyway, not hours. I don't have heard of any observation of a ball lightning, of one single ball lightning seen for hours. So, well, there is some main differences between ball lightning and this Hessdalen phenomena. And also the weather conditions. I mentioned that when there's magnetic activity, is a high probability and a humidity and so on. But actually it can show up in all weather conditions. So it has been seen, clear weather can be seen when it's snowing, heavy fog. It's been seen when it's foggy. All weather conditions it's been seen. So it's quite different from ball lightning.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I think that's very important for people to learn about the differences for that. And then with regard to the earthquake lights.
Well, that's also a discussion, but that's one of the reasons why we had the seismograph up there, to see if there was some small earthquake, very small, but none. And the Hessdalen area is the area in Norway with the lowest amount of earthquakes. And if any, it is very, very small. And so Hessdalen area is the area in Norway where fewest earthquakes.
That's interesting. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. And also, I know that some of my listeners will want to know if there is anything special. Tell us about the geology of the valley.
Yes, that's an interesting. What is the geology? Because why happening in Hessdalen? And it's an area with a lot of minerals.
Oh, and of course I ask you that right before we go to break. I'm just so enjoying this conversation. I'm not noticing what Dean is telling me on Skype, but I'm Erica Lutz. We'll talk about that when we get back. I'm here with Erling Strand, and we'll catch you on the other side of the break.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lutz.
Erica Lutz.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
With Erica Lutz on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lutz, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lutz.
Erica Lutz.
Welcome back to the final segment of UFO Classified. I hope all of you are safe and healthy, and I am thinking of all of you. I appreciate your love and support. before the show, and it really is. It means the world to me to see all of you here and to see numbers growing. And I'm getting messages from all over the world. It is really cool to connect with people and for them to understand the importance of this topic. And it is exciting for me tonight, very clearly, that I have somebody that I hold in the highest of regard, because he is not only a wonderful person, but somebody who is a shining example of what to do, how to use science, how to persevere. And he has been the project leader for the Project Hessdalen in Norway, which you need to go visit the site. I'll be providing links on my website and through the chat room tonight, so you can go check it out, spread the word. It is incredible. But we were talking about the geology before I realized we had to go to break. So let's continue with that, because this is very interesting.
Yes, it is interesting. And why is it happening in Hessdalen, this small valley in Norway? Why is it so intense up there? Has there something to do with the ground? It's easy to think so. There must be something. We know that the area itself has a lot of minerals. It is copper, it's iron, it's a lot of old mining systems up in the area, the Røros area, which this is a part of. And you can find abandoned mines. So there is still minerals up there. And we have also tried to map more, not only finding where it's minerals, but also what kind of conductivity, if it has something to do with some connection in a way with electricity or magnetic thing. We know it has something to do with some connection with the magnetic thing. Is there something in the ground which can give us some answer on this? So that's one of the reasons why we have involved geophysicists from both Greek and France. They have been doing work up there for several years. They have mapped nearly the whole valley up there. And they have found something which they think is interesting. The interesting thing is, first of all, the magnetic places. Some places is more magnetic than the other. And also the conducting in the ground. They have some instrument carrying it on them, moving, walking in straight line, reading the instruments every 10 meters or something. And so they have been doing this for years, and they have walked many kilometers and doing this. And they have found which something they call interesting. Conducting, some conducting area, but from something conducting area with a specific, it was like a circle around this valley, and there's also some magnetical areas, and they found these conducting things in the ground is very conducting. As you can imagine, you have a metal which you can go current in. You have a wire, for instance, conducting very good electricity. And if you have a very big and dig that down in the ground, they have found similar things in the valley, but which is down in the ground. But from there to give an explanation on this Hessdalen phenomena, we don't know. So we don't know if it has something to do with the phenomena at all. But anyway, we know this is specific with Hessdalen. So maybe later, more study is done. Hopefully someone will come up with some explanation there. Anyway, we've got the data on that.
And so when people have had observations, I seem to recall that there were observations where it almost appeared as if the ball of light was reacting to the human presence. And so can you tell us a little bit more about some of that, the interesting behavior?
Well, we have had not so many which we can precisely connect to human activity, but I can say that there was something interesting. For instance, we did a test with a laser a long time ago on 2 different occasions, well, totally 9 times, and when we pointed the laser to it, it changed behavior. The flashing frequency, which changed dramatically when we pointed the laser towards it. And when we took the laser down, it moved back to normal again. And this happened, we did the test totally 9 times, and in 8 of those 9 times, this happened. That was strange. We have also had other things which can be, I would say, it can be a coincidence. For instance, when we during the fieldwork, we saw a light in the hillside, standing still. They thought it was a cottage, because when you see a light in the hillside, you think, well, it's a light from a cottage. But there was no cottage there. There were no roads there. There was nothing there. But they thought it was a cottage. So they didn't take any pictures or anything, because they were quite sure. Well, they said it moved a little bit now and then, but I thought it was something in the air which made it look like it was moving a little bit. But more than 1.5 hours after this, when they started to see it, I looked at it now and then, didn't take any pictures. Then this light moved out from this hillside, this mountainside, and moved up in the middle of the valley and stopped and started to move directly towards them. And then they had a walkie-talkie radio transmitter to alarm us, to say, do you see what's happening on your instruments? And when they pushed the button to stop, it disappeared. Exactly the same time. Well, had it something to do with when they send some radio signals, some reaction or whatever? We don't know. There are also some other few really strange observations too, or strange happening, which, well, we as long as we have very few of those, very few, we notice them. I have them written in my book, just in case they will show up to be important one time. But if you compare, we have had several hundreds, thousands of observations totally up there. And if 1 or maybe 2 are extreme strange, I think it's not, it doesn't need to have something to do with the phenomenon. It may be something else. So it can be maybe dangerous, not dangerous, but to involve such a specific description into the science work we are doing, because, well, first of all, we have so very few, and it doesn't need to be necessarily be part of the phenomenon. I could, when we're talking about that, I could also mention one other strange thing. Not so far from Hessdalen, out in the mountain to the west, there's a piece of wet soil which is cut out from the ground. Some meters, I think it was 3 meter and 5 meter square, some kind of square, which was, I think it was 50 centimeter deep, half a meter or something, if I remember that correctly. But anyway, it was wet soil, and it was cut like a sharp laser or sharp knife, and it was cut beneath too, and just lifted up, moved some few meters, and put down on the ground. So, and without being destroyed, if you can imagine, there was no possible to have any machinery up there. There was no tracks either. Of course, this is far out in the countryside, far out in the mountain. And this was found by some hunters. This piece of wet soil, half a meter deep, if I remember correctly, some meters long both ways, and pushed up and moved and pushed down on the ground. There's only one of those in Hessdalen. No one saw any phenomena. It was just discovered by coincidence. We don't know if that has anything to do with the topic itself. So we don't involve that mystery into our science either. But anyway, we write down some of these things just in case it should show up later that it can tell us something.
Right, and that we called that the cookie cutter phenomena here because we've had reports, several over the years where things like that had taken place as well, and it is very, very curious. But I want to ask you, when the phenomena is present, do you have any sorts of equipment malfunctions? Does it interfere with anything?
Yes, that has happened. During our first field work, for instance, the power, we had power lines to the nearest house, some 100 meters, and to run our instruments. And when the phenomena showed up, the power went off. Luckily, not every time. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any data on the phenomena or data from the radar and so on. But it happened so many times that we believed was there a connection here? So the next year we decided to take a test where we had one part of the fieldwork with no instruments at all and one part with full of instruments to see if there was a connection. But sadly, it was only one happenings. The one big happenings the last year in '85. So that doesn't prove anything. But so we have had some power failures. We have also had about batteries in the cameras. Sometimes we put in new batteries in the cameras, and then out in the field, and then suddenly the battery is down, no power left. So we had a huge amount of batteries which we believed was dead because it was no power out in the field. We took them out from the cameras and was going to throw them. But luckily, we decided to measure the power on the batteries, and it was full power again. So something strange. When the camera was out in the field with the battery, the power was taken away. But when the batteries way back from the field, back home in a way, the power was on the battery. So that has happened several times. We tried to do something. We tried to wrap the camera into some metal, some foils, and we got the impression that helped a little bit. It did.
Thank you for clarifying that. I think that's important. We often hear about some of that interference, electrical interference with things, and so I mean I want to just again point out you have captured on camera over 300 observations, and I think that is really important. I don't think there's another place on the planet where so much has been documented and put out to the public in a very transparent way, and I think that is really commendable, and it's exciting because we've got all this stuff that we can look at and things. And so what is the closest proximity that you know of that somebody has been to the phenomena?
Do you understand you correctly if you want to know the distance from the observer? Yes. Well, on one occasion it was half a meter, but that was a very small light moving on the ground. Well, actually that was in connection with our laser test with the change of behavior. You'd use a red laser, and 1 week later, on the ground, there was a red spot, as if it was from a laser, and it moved around their feet and disappeared. So that was on the ground, beside your feet, and two of the observers had never seen a laser spot before, so I took the laser we had used on the test up to the station. It wasn't there during the whole period, so when we had the first test, I had to take it back to the work again, and when I come up. In the meantime, the story with the red light moving around their feet had happened, and I brought the two fellow who was witness this, and I took the laser and turned it on down to the snow on the ground, and asked them it was similar. Yeah, and they said yes, exactly, but it was a little bit weaker than the laser I used. And the laser I used was quite strong in a way. You can imagine a red laser pointing to white snow. You have the red spot and you have the glowing red in the snow around. So it was like that, and it was a little bit. That is quite close. But you have also had other stories, bigger lights, which has been close in a way. When I talk about 50 meters, I say that is close, especially when you have a light which is 10 meters in diameter. One of the fellows was seeing a light on a cottage in the dark when he was coming home from work late one evening. It was dark outside, and it was just where his friend has a cottage. So he thought it was his friend's cottage which was on fire. So he moved to drive to the location, had to walk a little bit towards the cottage. This forest, he couldn't see anything, but when he came out of the forest and the cottage was about 50 to 70 meters away, he saw it wasn't the cottage who was burning. It was a light as big as the cottage, about 10 meters in diameter. And it was triangular with a sharp end down. It was moving slowly down when the top or the bottom, though, the sharp end was hitting the ground. It jumped up and moved slowly down again and jumped up and continued for a long period of time, half an hour. It slowly went away, not standing on the same spot. It moved further away behind the cottage and disappeared. So, well, you can say 50, 70 meters, that is also close. We have also several other stories. Another living up there, so in the garden, big as a truck. I would estimate the distance to be around, I would say 30, 40 meters, or maybe 50, around there. And it was also huge light. It was described as some kind of object with a glowing light on all sides. But actually, it was down in the river. This house is very close to the river, so it was down in the river. So we saw only there was something light down by the river, and then this lady was standing, looking at it, wondering what it could be. And it moves slowly up, and it was huge, long, oval-shaped. She described it as something metal, and it was some metal with some glowing light around it. And it moved up from the river, so she saw the whole object towards the other side of this hillside and then it moved up and disappeared very fast. That was also quite close. So we have some which I will define as close.
And so, but there are no health effects. I mean, these people aren't, they're seeing the light, but they're not injured. And I think that is really important. I mean, there is something wonderful taking place over there. You are addressing this with your team of the brightest scientific minds in the world, and you're engaging a younger generation to look at this with open eyes and to utilize science. I think that everything that you've done has been just remarkable, and I really feel that we need to look towards Norway to find good, credible work. I'm so thrilled to have you on the show and to have you as a friend and somebody who has supported me and given me good information over the years. It has been a really wonderful thing for me, and I hope all of you go ahead and go to the website. Make sure you check it out often, because Erling is always updating it. And I also want to just give a shout out to my friends at UFO Camp and Thomas Dahl, who is great and who took some wonderful daytime photographs over there, and also he moderates the Facebook page as well. And so, Erling, tell us one more time, we've got about 30 seconds, where can everyone find you?
Well, the easiest way is to go to the website, hessdalen.org, and on the bottom there you see the webmaster, that's the mail address. So I think that's the easiest. Send me an email, and then we can get it.
Perfect. You are wonderful. I appreciate you so much. And I want to thank all of my listeners for, again, supporting me, for being here. I wish you all the best through the week. Please be safe, and we will catch you next week. Take care.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows, visit her website at ufoclassified.com. UFO Classified. UFO Classified. This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.